toss. Geoffrey Jones bowled the first ball of the series, and Conrad Hunt coolly square-cut it for 4. Then a typical first morning of a test. The faster bowlers nagged away a little short of a length. The batsman played and sometimes missed, but gradually Hunt sent down his roots. First, Butcher bore him company. Then came Nurse. Meanwhile, Hunt was making his cool, competent way to a century. England had their successes, but at 215 for 4 to see Garfield Sobers walk into bat is more than merely disheartening. But whatever the bowlers may have felt, this was a memorable innings. Sobers stepped into his own, batting with an exuberant mastery granted to few men on this level. Mike Smith gave us an exciting reminder of his catching ability. But not everything was held. So Sobers was still there with his cousin David Holford to bat on Friday morning. Sobers, the critics agreed, wasn't in touch on the second morning. He only made 161, that's all. And he loaded a heavy burden on the shoulders of the English batsman. Milburn's were only briefly broad enough. His run-out was brilliant or grotesque, according to where your sympathies lay. England never settled. The wicket began to take spin, and give Lance Gibbs an inch of turn and he'll take an L, for there's no finer finger spinner in the world today. Sobers, of course it would be Sobers, rendered him spectacular aid. Holford produced a classic leg break for Titmuss. Park struck some healthy blows, but Gibbs was unanswerable. All too early on Saturday, England, 317 behind, were invited, cruelly gentle word, to follow on. Colin Milburn, in his first test, mounted a mighty resistance. First, Russell was his partner, and then Barrington. For a few minutes, he batted with Cowdrey, and then, at length, Milburn, on the brink of a century, went down as he batted, defiantly. Cowdrey batted with poise and care against the spin, until Sobers again, took his wicket. Then Gibbs mopped up. And that was it. West Indies in 3 days by an innings and 40 runs. Sir Leary Constantine.
This was only the second time West Indies had won by an innings in England. But I don't think anyone could say that they did not earn it.
So to Lord's, place of mellow memories, and those meetings of old friends at the same place every year. Though they grow older, their meetings are as fresh as ever, and the new assignations spring up beside them. England's change of captain to Colin Cowdrey couldn't change the luck of the toss, but Tom Graveney back at long last, and Basil d'Oliveira in, these were intriguing possibilities. And Higgs, Alec Bedser's true successor, and Knight took 4 West Indian wickets between them for 155. And nearly another. Sobers, no less, dropped first ball. But at the end of the half-day's play that rain allowed, the balance was just about even. Higgs bowled gamely on into the second day to his best test performance, 6 for 91. West Indies, all out for 269, hadn't made the most of batting first. The England innings began on the high note of Wesley Hall bowling at Lord's, recalling his historic spell of 1963, and cutting at once into the English batting. That brought in Tom Graveney, back after 3 years and 37 tests away, and on the day after his 39th birthday. He was left in no doubt of the crowd's welcome, and he was batting at once, like an old master, settling in with Boycott. Soon the question of Saturday morning for the packed crowd within closed gates was, could Graveney reach the storybook 100 on his return? Calmly on to 96, and then... But he's far too wise a man to have been unhappy with 96. England, 5 wickets down and 66 behind. The game level again. The cue for Jim Parks to play an innings of quite boyish freshness and enjoyment. Basil d'Oliveira, entering his first test with a rare air of maturity, was run out by uncanny bad luck. But at least he preserved a sense of humour and a souvenir about it. Still Parks went gaily on. He too fell short of his 100, but if a lead of 86 was less than England's hopes, it was better than their fears. And in the half hour left of the third day, Knight, with the catch of the game off Higgs, reinforced their position. Monday morning, and on a pitch briefly lively after weekend covering, England suddenly attacking. And when Canhai was out, we came to the crucial moment of the match, perhaps of the series. West Indies, 95 for 5, were in effect 9 for 5, and at the end of their batting. England surely were winning, but for one man, Sobers, when David Holford, playing only his second test, came in to join him. But one man is not enough for such a situation. Easy, too easy to be wise after the event. Cowdrey was content, as many a captain would have been in his place, to give Sobers the single in order to attack Holford. Only gradually did it dawn on him, or anyone else, that a young cricketer was growing into a test batsman under their very eyes. Sobers moved on, at first protectively, always commandingly, and gradually, too, Holford lengthened his stride. This was magnificent batting. Every ball critical, yet stroke after stroke being made as if with joy, and to remind us that a bat is for making runs. On those two went into the last day, to an escape for Sobers. To Holford's memorable moment. When still together, they'd made 274, a West Indian record for the 8th wicket, Sobers could declare and set England 284 to win in 4 hours. This time Milburn began in more circumspect fashion. Now, in an echo of 1963, Sobers threw in Griffith and Hall with a full attacking field. And soon England, from the edge of winning, as they'd been a day before, were brought to the brink of losing. At this crucial moment, Milburn, as solid and belligerent as he looked, rode his luck and wielded his bat with immense power. Meanwhile, at the other end, Tom Graveney, for all the sore thumb that made his strokes painful, was the calm, reassuring, professional influence. Alas, rain disturbed the delicate balance of runs, wickets and time, and left little for expectation or enjoyment, except Milburn's 100. He came to that in his own way, even if his supporters couldn't give him quite the same lift as he gave the England batting. How might it have gone, I wonder, but for the rain, which cost an hour of the afternoon, and left England 86 behind with 6 wickets in hand at the end? Might it have been another 1963?
This was a draw of more epic quality than many a decided game. And if I shall always remember Sobers and Holford for their part in it, I shall not forget Milburn or Graveney either.
Trent Bridge, where Neville Cardus once said, "It is always afternoon, and the score is always 360 for 2 wickets. Though they won the toss, again, it didn't prove so for the first West Indian innings. Higgs and his newest bowling partner, John Snow, were encouraged by just a little greenness in the wicket. The ball would move a bit off the seam, and the West Indian batsman didn't enjoy it. Even Sobers must have known more than 3, and they lent heavily on Seymour Nurse, surely the major West Indian batsman of the new generation. like Parks, Milburn and Graveney. Before him in this series, he fell tantalizingly short of his century. But 235 was much less than West Indies must have expected on a pitch of such reputation. Someone had muttered, however, that England would have to pay for getting Garfield Sobers out as cheaply as that. And surely enough, he took the new ball himself, and the English innings was no sooner begun than he cut into it. Then he helped hold to Milburn's wicket. All alone accounted for Russell, and England were 13 for 3, and the only encouragement for their friends that night was the last half hour. The serenity of Colin Cowdrey batting at his best, and Tom Graveney emphasising the long loss England had suffered from his absence. Friday, and the game was tilted again. Graveney and Cowdrey, with rounded authority, batted far on down the day in face of every resource of the West Indian bowling. Storms darkened and interrupted the play, but otherwise Graveney and Cowdrey made it seem that Trent Bridge was indeed a place of afternoon and countless runs. Graveney came majestically to the 100 he'd missed at Lord's. Now, again, Sobers made crucial thrusts. Cowdrey became the 5th batsman in this series to be out in the 90s. By early on the 3rd morning, a traditional Trent Bridge Saturday, England had declined from the prosperity of 220 with only 4 wickets down to 260 for 9, just 25 ahead. And their last 2 batsmen, Basil D'Oliveira and Derek Underwood, babes in this jungle with a mere 3 tests between them. Yet, and surely to their amazement as much as everyone else's, they stayed on to set a new last wicket record for England-West Indies test matches. Underwood modestly adhering to the basic principles of textbook defence. D'Oliveira calm, yet, given the opportunity, powerful, and growing up into the crowd's respect and affection. .65 for the last wicket. England 90 ahead on the first innings, and in front of an eager Saturday crowd, the West Indies lost their first 2 wickets and were still behind when Canhigh and Butcher came together. Now the West Indies proved themselves undeniable, if unofficial, champions of the world. They'd played their way out of the threat of defeat at Lord's, and now they did it again. Grimly through the rest of Saturday, but with mounting power into Monday. Canhigh was out for Shawley, as slow yet as valuable a 60 as he's ever made in his life. Underwood, a wise head on his young shoulders, was economical, but he could only slow the advance. Sobers batted like a man apart, and then at 94 tossed away 100 with the air of a prodigy. Butcher, though, steady as a long-distance train, went on to 200. So Sobers could declare again, leaving England 393 to win in 389 minutes. A cool, realistic calculation, which Griffith, Hall and Gibbs proceeded to verify for him. Boycott fought as savagely as ever. First Gravely played himself in and then was out before he could build an innings. Then Colin Cowdrey did the same thing. And so did Jim Clark. De Oliveira again was resolute and firm, but all the time the West Indies, coldly, efficiently, were winning. By 139, they went 2 up with 2 to play for the 4th test at Headingley.
You know, John, West Indies won this match by the quality which has always distinguished the really strong sides. The blend of experience, technique, and temperament. This carried them from a losing position to a winning one.
After an opening wink of sun at Headingley, sheer February weather took most of the joy and half the play out of the first day. But nothing ever chills a Yorkshire crowd's enthusiasm for its own test match. Kenhigh gave them some bright moments. Higgs bowled faithfully. Hunt, after a bright start, dug in. And Snow refused to be disheartened by the feather-bed pitch. So, by the end of the half-day, the game stood level. It didn't remain so long on the second morning. Higgs certainly gave England a glimpse of hope with Butcher's wicket. But then they didn't take another for 5 livelong hours. There was, in the words of the old rhyme, a smile on the face of the tiger. In years to come, no doubt, the English players will relish the memory of that innings, but for the moment they suffered under the lash. Seymour Nurse is a man of strokes, but he was content to make his century modestly by comparison with his captain. Why should it ever end? The bowlers seemed, if not quite Sobers' collaborators, at least helpless servants. We'd seen it all before, but it was as thrilling as ever. Even the numbers seemed of little importance, though Sobers's century received an unusual salute. There was an impressive, if belated, sight of Barber's leg spin, and it ended Sobers's gay progress, but at a time when it hardly mattered, either for him or for his successors. And when he declared, a huge round figure loomed ahead of the England batting. Boycott and Barber were content to live until the morning of the third day. England didn't survive long then. Hall began one of his great spells, a splendid sight of bounding power as he moved in, unless you happened to see him from the opposite crease. Yet perhaps greater drama came at the other end, where Griffith took the first wicket of the morning and bowled a bouncer to Graveney, whereupon Charles Elliott, the umpire, warned Griffith that if he delivered such another ball, he'd be called for throwing. Eventually, even Hall had to rest. D'Oliveira, once again, cool and correct where men of far greater experience had failed, batted soundly and at times gloriously. And Hicks now stood with him and made the highest score of his career. D'Oliveira was out hitting. And Milburn, returning after his injury, made another gesture. But England were tied down, their tail was mopped up, and they followed on 260 behind. In a flash of intuition, Sobers threw the ball to Lashley as first change. And, with another indication of Jackie Hendrick's mounting ability, the first England wicket was gone. The only Yorkshireman in the side was out, to a gasp of disappointment all round Headingley, and a dim English prospect for Monday. Barber began that fourth morning with defiant strokes, but again Sobers, who else? It was becoming almost too regular. Sobers cut the innings open. Milburn, even at half power, mounted his usual aggression. But this time it was the turn of yet another of the West Indies world-class players to deal the final stroke. Gibbs, 6 for 39, and the game was done. West Indies by an innings and 55, and the rubber by 3 games to none, with only the Oval to come.
Once more, if Sobers was again outstanding, 174 in his only innings and 8 wickets, it was a team win. At least 6 West Indians made important contribution to this decisive match, and it is my belief the spirit of challenge by England so wanting in this game, if present, may not have changed the result, but would have given the spectators a better treat.
But Cowdrey was blamed, and at the Oval, England, for the first time in cricket history, selected a third captain within a single test series, Brian Close from Yorkshire. But he couldn't stop Sobers with his infallible luck from winning the toss for the 5th time in the rubber. Nevertheless, he led out a vastly altered England side, with John Edridge and John Murray coming back, and Dennis Amos of Warwickshire playing his first test. Close is no respecter of cricketing persons from any country, and from the start he pushed his jaw right into the matter. For the 5th time in the rubber, Higgs took the first wicket of the match. Dear sir, is this a record? John Snow took McMorris's wicket. And though Canhigh played himself into the day, Toast chipped in to have Butcher caught. And when Nurse went too, it was 74 for 4. England, though, had been through all this before. Here was Sobers once more, with good reason to smile, and it was all as before. Close gave us an unusually early sight of Barber's leg breaks, but it was all as before, or so it seemed. Sobers 50. Canhigh's 100, strangely enough, is first in a test in England and not unrecognised. Then, all at once, the familiar pattern was disturbed. Canhigh's favourite sweet stroke was caught by Illingworth. Sobers hit one of Barber's poorer leg breaks straight to Graveney. And Close, with real tactical acumen, kept on his spinners, and the wickets fell. Down to 223 for 9. Then, for there was nothing missing on this day of sun and a full crowd, we had the comedy and tension of a last wicket stand. Hall at his most exuberant. Supported by Gibbs, coolly unamused, for to bowlers, batting is a serious business. "45 runs for the last wicket. 45 runs enjoyed as much on the terraces as on the field. Then, to complete the pattern, the tension of 40 minutes of the England innings. And Boycott's wicket taken by the sheer pace of Hall. Friday. The sun hot, the gates closed. The story sadly familiar to English followers. Barber got a startling ball. From Sobers, of course, his 200th test wicket. It lifted, took the glove, and went to slip. John Edridge, game as ever. Then a reminder that on this tour, Jackie Hendricks has become a world-class wicket-keeper. Dennis Amiss, impressively calm and workmanlike. Tom Graveney, deepening his impress on the series. Then Hall again. D'Oliveira was due to fail. The combination of Griffith and Hendricks dealt with Illingworth. And at 3 o'clock, England was still 102 behind, when John Murray, long left out of the England team because his batting wasn't good enough, came out number 9 to join Graveney. And then, in a stand to make selectors blush, these two batted for the rest of the day. After tea, in tidy order, came the 150 for the partnership, Graveney's century, Murray's 50. The 300. And next morning, though it was the first Saturday of the football season, the oval gates were closed again. Englishmen struggled to hide their disbelief. Graveney's 150. The 200 partnership. Murray's century, his first in a test. And as the two of them followed one another back to the pavilion, they were hailed as if they'd won a test series. After that, no one asked more of Higgs and Snow than that they should put up the 400. Yet now, slowly, there grew a partnership even more amazing than that of Graveney and Murray. Through uncertainty, laughter, incredulity, to something like command, past the new ball for another 3 hours to the first 50s either of them had ever scored in first-class cricket. John Snow, who indeed would normally make a bat last him a full season, now used 2 in 1 innings. Together, Snow and Higgs passed the highest English last wicket partnership ever made in England. And they were only 2 short of the highest in all Test cricket anywhere. And England were an unbelievable 259 ahead when Holford caught and bowled Higgs. And still the flabbergasted Saturday crowd could see Snow tumble the West Indian second innings to 12 for 2. And though Butcher resisted, D'Oliveira and Illingworth reduced it further to 135 for 4 by the evening. If some of their essence hadn't been squeezed out of the West Indians at Headingley when they won the rubber, they would be unique among all Test cricket teams. On Monday, Nurse was still entrenched. This was a great series for him. And with Sobers to come, all things were possible. Though nothing was less probable, or was it, than that he would be out first ball. It was several moments before the incredible fact sank in. Still, Nurse had to be prized out. And Griffith and Hall, as keen rivals in batting as in bowling, put on 36, a new 9th wicket record for West Indies against England before the end. But by that end, England, and not least Brian Close, had regained something outstanding. Not only had they beaten this great West Indian side, but, surely to their own amazement, they'd beaten them by an innings and 34.
Yes, on the plain this match, they won well. Though they have not solved all their problems, they will feel the experience that they have gained has taken them well within solutions. And the victory has been a great morale booster in technique and approach.
The delight of the English supporters was very soon set in proportion when Garfield Sobers came up to accept the Wisdom Trophy from General Sir Oliver Leese for winning the series. What of Sobers' own contribution towards that win? Unless cricket alone among sports has deteriorated in modern times, and it certainly hasn't, Sobers' contribution was that of the greatest all-round player the game has ever known. A batsman of quite exciting mastery, 3 kinds of bowler, glorious close fielder, and an immensely astute captain. As a captain, he could deploy Wesley Hall, the personification of high pace, Charles Griffith, unfailingly hostile, fast even in slow motion, Lance Gibbs, of the highly imaginative and aggressive spin, Conrad Hunt, competent, patient and steady, Rowan Canhigh of the variable genius, Seymour Nurse, who in 1966 entered the highest class of test batting, David Holford, who emerged from apprentice to rounded test player, Basil Butcher, spirited and reliable, Jackie Hendricks, a wicket-keeper who reached his peak on this tour. And on the England side, you'll remember Colin Milburn, unfailingly aggressive and, eventually, mighty unlucky. Ken Higgs, game, accurate, intelligent and persistent. Tom Graveney, making his movingly nostalgic return to Test cricket. Basil D'Oliveira from South Africa, a New England cricketer. And at the end, that last wicket stand. But, perhaps most intriguingly, Brian Close, with the questions he poses as to the future. This was a series of many splendid moments and of important auguries.
Brings it all back. I was the drinks waiter in that last match, the 12th man. Alongside me was someone who played, and I noticed was playing in spectacles, Geoffrey Boycott.
Yes, 2 years later I turned to contact lenses.
Successfully.
Yes.
We've had rain stop play here since 13 minutes past 12. The England scores now stuck on 96 for 4, so 1 wicket fell this morning. Lunch has been taken at this moment.